Peace and love, family. Welcome again to the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. This is U.S. Political Prisoners and You, and I'm with my brother Tariq, former member of the Black Liberation Army, former member of the Black Panther Party.
Peace, family. I'm happy to be with you. As Frank said, my name is Tyreek. I am a Black Panther, never stopped being, and I am a former member of the Black Liberation Army. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to you today, and thank you for tuning in to see Brother Frank and to hear what we have to say.
As you know, if it's your first time viewing, we ask that you please subscribe to Black Power Media. It is our platform. It is how we control our own destiny because we control our own narrative. This platform is very important to us. It's very important to our liberation struggle. So please make sure you invite others to subscribe to Black Power Media, home of U.S. political prisoners, and you, and a number of important programs that is geared to our liberation struggle. That being said, this is day number 11 of Women History Month. And for all those sisters, those powerful, strong sisters, women, I hope you had a very enlightening and a very celebratory and ceremonious International Women's Day, and that was March 8th. So today we're focusing, today is the second part of Women's History Month 2026. It's a multiple part series brought to you by U.S. Political Prisoners and You, courtesy of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition, NEPPC. And this is part two. Part two, we're focusing on the body of work of Frankye Malika Adams Johnson. So I'm going to get into an article that was written on this sister. And this article was written Thursday, October 20th, 2016. And it says, as October marks the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, Jacksonians are celebrating one of their own, former veteran of the Mississippi Civil Rights Movement, chairperson Frankye Malika Adams Johnson, who served with the party in New York City, helping to educate and feed young people and make a difference in the areas of human and civil rights. The Yokwe Lumumba Center for Economic Democracy and Development, 939 West Capitol Street, will host a commemoration ceremony today, October 20th at 6 p.m., honoring Adams Johnson. Participants will also watch and discuss segments from the documentary series, What We Want, What We Believe, the Black Panther Party Library. Even as a young girl, Adams Johnson experienced a painting for understanding of the world and a need for change. She was born in the small town of Pocahontas, Mississippi, where her parents were sharecroppers. There were days when she wasn't allowed to go to school because she had to work in the fields to help her family. She moved with her mother and siblings to Jackson in high school, which opened her eyes to further inequalities, even shopping downtown. She couldn't enter some stores and some restaurants wouldn't allow her to sit at the counter. Those kinds of motivation were enough to inspire me to take a stand. And just in terms of my nature, I seem to have, as a very young person, a longing for this very foreign word to my vocabulary, freedom, and just a longing to know what that was. And just as an individual, wanting to know what that felt like, Adam Johnson says. Her first involvement in the civil rights movement came during a student walkout that students of the three African American high schools in Jackson conducted, including Brinkley High School, which Adams Johnson attended. The walkout, which was in protest of the beating of Togolese students who attempted to integrate the Woolworth's lunch calendar, helped Adams Johnson get more engaged in the movement locally, connecting her with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She soon became involved with the NAACP's Jackson Youth Movement and became the youth secretary for the NAACP. After graduating from Brinkley, she enrolled at Togolese College in 1964, having dedicated much of the previous year to civil rights activism. She continued that work at Togolese, focusing her attention on voter registration and work with members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. However, in 1967, shortly after Adams Johnson's junior year, her mother was concerned for her and sent her to live with her sister in White Plains, New York, after she had been beaten during a protest. I was not, I guess, the student that she had sent me to college to be, because the movement had become my life. She says, out of that concern for my life, she sent me to New York to live with my older sister. The move curbed her activism for a time, and her location on the outskirts of New York City made it difficult for her to connect with the activism community. At the same time, living in White Plains introduced her to a new injustice: gentrification, the revival of urban areas due to an influx of more affluent people and new developments, which often displaces poorer residents. It was something she experienced firsthand as her sister's house was torn down to make room for her tenements for new tenements, excuse me. That was my first observation of the injustice as it related to African Americans in the big city, which I had thought of as being the land of the free. She says, that was my first observation and my first realization that racism and discrimination was not just a Southern thing, that it did exist in the big city. She soon began attending meetings in the city for cultural nationalists, a group that centered on the idea of promoting traditional African culture. Unfortunately, these cultural nationalist meetings often seem to focus on talk rather than actively helping the struggling community outside, she says. Then one day she saw the Black Panther Party for the first time. For one of those meetings, going from the suburbs to the city on the streets of Harlem, 125th Street and 7th Avenue, I met these people who were dressed in black regalia, the black beret and black leather, and that got my attention, she says. Their rhetoric, I guess, got my attention more because they were talking about black power and educating and empowering people of color. Excited at finding an organization that shared her desire to have a direct effect on human rights issues, she inquired about how she could join, and immediately she was given copies of the Black Panther newspaper to sell. While she wasn't able to relocate to the city at the time, she and her sister met with an officer from the Panthers main office and agreed to start their own branch of the party in White Plains. They began recruiting members and setting up the party's Liberation School and its seminal survival program, free breakfast for school children. After heading up the White Plains branch, the party asked Adams Johnson to move to Brooklyn in 1969 and work full-time as a Panther officer of the day, communications secretary for the Brooklyn branch, and head of the Liberation School, an after-school program that fought miseducation in schools and helped African American children understand their heritage. Adams Johnson says those initial experiences with the Black Panther Party were some of the most enriching and influential moments of her life, showing her just how difficult life could be for African Americans in poverty. Being Black in poor Mississippi, there was segregation and there were many injustices through education. But when it came to our community, as poor as we were, we never went hungry. We never went clothesless, she says. Even with medical care, our parents and community found a way to make sure that we were healthy. It was quite contrary to what I experienced in terms of being Black and poor in the ghettos of New York. Despite the many necessary programs that the Black Panther Party provided for youth and for families across the nation, Adams Johnson says many people recall it in a negative light. This stems in part from the national attention the party received after members armed themselves and took to the steps of the California state capitol in May 1967, asserting their right to bear arms and their right to self-defense. For Adams Johnson, though, guns had very little to do with the Black Panther Party's contribution to the minority communities in New York. They never met and plotted to hurt others, and they weren't a gang, she says. The party even had a 10-point program to address issues that Black people face, such as imprisonment issues and education issues. Most of my experience with the Black Panther Party was just as passionate to me as my work with the NAACP, my work with SNCC. All of it was one and the same, she says. My work had more to do with addressing human rights issues. We went beyond just civil rights, and I like that. Just as an individual, I grew up with a sense of the right to protect yourself. I grew up with people with guns. I grew up with my uncles who were hunters, so guns were not new to me. And I grew up with a mother who would shoot someone if she had to do that to defend herself. So the right to self-defense, I believe, and I still believe that today. After the Black Panther After the Black Panthers began to dissolve in the early 1970s, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover used the controversial counterintelligence program, or COINTELPRO, to target party members, many of whom found themselves on the run due to their connections or others spreading lies about them. For a while, Adam Johnson says she was displaced. That changed when she decided to return to the City University of New York to earn her bachelor's degree and then her master's degree in fine arts. After receiving her degree, she stayed on at at CUNY as a professor, launching her career as an educator while also working with various community organizations on issues such as fair housing. In 1999, Adam Johnson moved back to Jackson and began teaching as an adjunct professor at Jackson State University about 3 years later. She became a full-time professor for JSU in 2003 and maintained that role for 11 years before retiring. Though she still teaches courses there 2 days a week, she also donated papers from her time in the Black Panther Party to JSU, which are on display in the Margaret Walker Center. While she says she often wonders what lasting change there has been, seeing that so many students enter higher education without the basic tools they need to succeed, she is nonetheless grateful for the principles and the broader understanding of political systems and capitalism that the Black Panther Party granted her. Uh, yes, very extensive bio. I thought it was very important for us to start our discussion with that. So, with that being said, I'll go right into the first question that I had. The first question that I had for my beloved comrade and my brother in the struggle to free our political prisoners is that what should today's organizers around our political prisoners learn from professional organizer Frankye Malika Adams Johnson's life as a professional organizer?
Okay, before I answer that question, I would just like to read a quote from Amy Garvey, Marcus Garvey's wife, and it's titled Black Woman. And it reads, "Be not discouraged, Black woman of the world, but push forward, regardless of the lack of appreciation shown you." And that's by Amy Garvey, Marcus Garvey's wife. And Malika should know that, even though a lot of people don't have Malika on TV every day, she deserves that. That's the kind of treatment that she deserves because of her commitment to the struggle. And as the bio pointed out, Malika was in the struggle from the time that she worked with the SNCC. She worked with SNCC on registering people to vote and involving people in the electoral process. And she worked with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. She worked with them. She worked with the NAACP. And I should point out that she worked with Medgar Evers. And the college I attended was Medgar Evers. I was one of the first students to go there. And I was able to, as being a part of the student body there, I was able to be in an audience with his brother, Medgar Evers' brother, Charles Evers, who came to Medgar Evers during the first year. But Malika used to work with Medgar Evers. And in fact, the night that Medgar Evers was killed, Malika was in contact with Medgar Evers, and Medgar Evers was going to take her home, but another person was there who lived closer to Malika's house, and he put her in that car, and that person took Malika home. But that was on the night that Medgar Evers was killed, which is to say that Malika, Frankye May Adams, has been in the struggle for quite a while. And she was worked with the NAACP with Medgar Evers, and she worked with SNCC, Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael. And at one of the demonstrations that was held, Malika was had been arrested, and she was put in a squad in a paddy wagon, and she dropped something, and she got out of the paddy wagon and bent down to pick it up, and the police hit her in the back with a nightstick and hurt her, and that injury that she experienced that particular day has been troubling her right up to the present day. So we should point that out. So she has made sacrifices for the people. And Malika, at a very young age, and it's pointed out in her bio, she saw the situation that Black people was in, and she saw that Black people needed to experience improvements in their life, and she decided to commit herself to working to carry to bring about those improvements. So that was a very impressive thing on the part of Malika. So Malika had what she had done was assess our situation, the situation of Black people, and she decided to involve herself in the struggle to help improve the life of Black people. And then that is a good thing for Malika to have done. And that is a template that all Black people should see that as a template for their conduct. They should be of the mindset that they will look at Black people's situation and see that there's improvements needs to be done, and they should decide to involve themselves in being a part of the effort to improve the Black situation. That's what Malika has done, has a history of having done.
Yeah, so when we look at her bio and we've seen the sacrifices that she made, right? Because you see that she had experienced police brutality, a situation that continues to affect her to this day. But one of the things that I realized in her bio is that she never stopped organizing, right? She went from different formations, but her principle was the same. It was like, I have to address the issue. And I think that, as organizers around U.S. held political prisoners, we have to keep that in mind. You might be with a particular organization that is not doing things the way you would like, but then you have to go elsewhere and do things in a way that's more conducive to who you are or your stage of development. So that's a fine example. I think that she demonstrated, and I think that that's an example that those who are very serious about organizing around political prisoners should do that. But as I always say in every episode, please make time to write to political prisoners. In a moment, I'll be giving off that information as well as giving out my information for anybody who is interested in doing work to free our political prisoners. You can contact me directly, and I could link you up with an organization that you might be interested in working with, or I might just have something in mind for you to take on. A task just as and as I take up is writing to political prisoners. I think that that is effective. I think that that is very important because it connects you and the political prisoner. So, with that being said, let us move to the next question. The next question is, what are you most impressed by Frankie Malika Adams Johnson's?
Well, I'm impressed by her work. I'm impressed that she has kept going. And as I pointed out, and as her bio is pointed out in her bio, Malika was a member of SNCC, and she was a member of the NAACP. And as you know, as I pointed out, Medgar Evers was killed, but Frankie Malika kept going. She didn't stop. And Martin Luther King was killed, and uh, Malika joined the Black Panther Party. And as Malcolm said, and Malika was carrying out this tenet, and that is that the price of freedom is death. And as we know from the United States just killed the supreme leader of Iran, he did not modify his behavior. Every day he'd go to his house and they had breakfast. And that morning that they killed him, and he knew that they was out to kill him. But he knew also, as Frankie may know, as Malika know, the price of freedom is death. The price of freedom is death. And they killed Medgar Evers back then. They killed Martin Luther King. But Malika kept going. She kept involving herself in the struggle to work to improve the situation of Black people. And just like the clerk today, who the supreme leader of Iran, who was killed, he knew that the price of freedom is death. And we have to know that those persons involved with themselves in the struggle have to know that the price of freedom is death. And along the way on the road to freedom, the former abused children, the rich ruling class and their agents, they are going to kill a lot of people. But we have to know that the price of freedom is death. in order for our children to not have to be subjected to what we are presently being subjected to, and this is what Malika knew, we have to struggle on in spite of the people being hurt, in spite of people being killed. And as Malcolm X said, the price of freedom is death. And a brother asked Malcolm the night before he was killed, he said, Malcolm, you think you should continue on? And Malcolm said, at some point, Black people are going to have to realize we have to stop running and face up to the possibility of being killed. And so that's what he told Brother Herman Ferguson. And he went on, and Malcolm went on that stage the next day, and he was killed. But he had already said that the price of freedom is death. In order for us to be free, in order for to stop the nuts from torturing our families and torturing our kids in the future, we have to be willing to sacrifice our lives today. And that is what Malika showed us from her continued struggle from Mississippi, from the NAACP in Mississippi, from the Jackson lunch counter situation that was being carried out by the NAACP. The price of freedom is death. And Malika kept going, and she is today she still struggles to help out the people, and we have to do that in order for us to be free. And so that's what we have to know, that Malika is a good example of the courage it takes to be free. And she's a good example of having acquired the necessary information to pass on to our people so that they can know what our situation is, and then they can involve themselves in the struggle. And this is the legacy that Malika has left with us.
Yes, thank you for letting us know the seriousness of this work. And she was very serious about her work. She was very committed. And I think that she wanted people to be accurate about a history of political party, right? And when I say that, I'm specifically talking about the Black Panther Party. In this book, We Want Freedom, written by U.S. held political prisoner, captured freedom fighter Mumia Abu-Jamal. On page 164, this is the chapter that says A Woman's Party. It says, in Brooklyn, another Panther member, Frankye Malika Adams, challenged the preeminent idea that the Black Panther Party was a man's thing. Women ran the BPP pretty much. I don't know how it became to be a male's party, or thought of as being a male's party, because these things, when you really look at it in terms of society, these things are looked on as being women things, feeding children, taking care of the sick, and so yeah, we did that. We actually ran the PPP's programs. So go ahead, brother.
I would say this too. I was thinking about that particular quote on my way here to be with Frank, and that is that when I joined the Panthers, I saw all these women involved in the struggle, and I saw that they were educated and they were answering the questions and educating the people. And so I realized that the majority of the Panthers were women. And when I was cut off from Malika and them when I was arrested, and I knew Malika and the other sisters had impressed me with being dedicated and educated soldiers, so that when I was cut off from them and I didn't have them to, when persons would come, and I knew that people would come and have questions about the party and about the revolution, and I knew that Malika and the other sisters would not be there, who were very educated about our situation. The absence of Malika inspired me to study everything. I studied everything. I could teach math at this point. I could teach English at this point. I could teach history, psychology, electronics. I could teach all of that. But that was the person who inspired me to begin the studying was Malika. And go ahead, Frank. Being in her absence and the absence of the other sisters.
Yes, but my brother, very passionate, and I just want him to know that we appreciate his sacrifice and his commitment, and just for him to relive those ideas and thoughts. And it is because his sacrifice and his commitment to this work that I'm inspired, at my age, with the time that I have, to continue to take on this work to raise awareness about our political prisoners and other issues that's going on, like what's going on with our beloved comrades in Cuba. All this work is all the same. It's about the attack on the people's right to self-determination. I think Malcolm said something that was very profound to me. He said, I believe in fighting on all fronts. Fighting for the freedom of our political prisoners is a front. And we got to look at that as a battleground that we have to take very seriously. So let us continue to organize. Let us continue to have ongoing dialogue around freeing our political prisoners. Let's evaluate our history. Talk about sisters like Frankye, Malika Adams Johnson, what she did, her body of work, the fact that she went from one organization to another organization. She never gave up. COINTELPRO was attacking her. She figured out what she was going to have to do. She made the transition over to academia. She was a professor. And I think that, that is very important because she always seen her value. She always realized that she could take a position somewhere else. And I think that that's what we need to do when we evaluate what are we used for? What can we do at this particular phase of our development?
And because, as I was trying to say, in the absence of Malika and the other sisters who were there to answer all the questions that the people who would come in to the party and ask, I was planning on being just a soldier. But in the absence of Malika and them, I had to do the studying. And I studied everything in order to be able to answer whatever questions that people would come to me and ask me.
Absolutely. So the final question that I would have is that how should we honor the sister's legacy? I would go first. When I think about that question, I was thinking about the best way to honor the sister's legacy is to do the work, to write to political prisoners or whatever's going on at the particular time, to get involved in it. Think about what she's done, right? She lay out her body of work. She took a position, right? She didn't duck, dodge, or deter leadership. She accepted it. And I think that that says a lot about her passion for her people, right? Because to be involved in an organization means that you're very serious about the conditions of your people. You're very serious about protecting and fighting for your people's right to self-determination. Exactly what Frankye Malika Adams Johnson is about. She is about being serious about expressing love for her people.
She is about being a soldier, and she is about being an educator. And that is the template we should follow, and Malika has set out the proper template. And one of the things we have to know and keep going forward, knowing that the price of freedom is death. And Malika is probably right now nursing a wound from when that police hit her with that nightstick years ago, probably in 60, 61. But she's been suffering ever since then from having been hit with that nightstick. But the price of freedom is death. And Malika know that, and she set the proper example by educating herself so that she would be available to answer the people's questions, so that they would know that the course that the Black Panthers was on is a course leading to Liberation Hill Mountaintop.
Absolutely. I think about what's happening today, a number of issues that's going on, and I think about her body of work, and it inspires me to commit myself more to think about who made what sacrifices, and the fact that I still have life left. What would I be doing if I'm not doing something that's political? The time to engage in certain conversations, is pretty much over for me, right? Even though I can held those conversations about, my favorite rappers, my favorite basketball players. Yes, there's a time and a place for that, but the significance and the importance of those conversations is not the way they once was. I'm not who I am at 52, as opposed to being 22, right? Because now you start understanding there's a number of things happening, and I have to relate myself to, what does that mean for me, right? You either are part of the solution or part of the problem. There's no in between. That's why when I see the aggression that the United States, the aggression that Israel has, I realize the importance that that we need to have when it comes to our politics. As Malcolm said, we need to have political maturity. We need to be clear, very much so, on our politics, right? What side are we on? Are we on a side that is pro working class, or are we on the side that's anti-working class and looks to continue to exploit the working class? So these are very important questions that we need to raise during this time. And I think that Frankye Malika Adams Johnson, she did a fine job in showing us the importance of being clear and mature politically. So, your closing words, my brother?
Yes, we want to know that back during when Malika was involved, presently walking in the struggle, the racist whites intended to keep us oppressed, and they intended to perpetrate violence against us, and they intend to do that to revisit that type of conduct in the future. And we all have to do what Malika has done, and that is to study the situation so that we'll know how best to proceed and then involve ourselves in the struggle, because the authorities are communicating to us that what they have done in Gaza, they intend to do to us, because they are going to cut the programs and they expect us to riot. And that is why they have the National Guard ready, and they're going to deploy more National Guard as they cut more programs, because America is broke. So we have to do what our soldiers have done in the past, what Malika and them have done in the past. We have to assess the situation and then involve ourselves in the struggle to improve the situation of Black people. And your commitment is going to be needed more than ever before, especially tomorrow.
With that being said, we appreciate your time. We know the value of it. And we'll see you next Wednesday on U.S. Held Political Prisoners, brought to you by the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition on Black Power Media. Once again, please continue to promote Black Power Media station. It is our station, is a station that reflects our views. It is our opportunity to control our narrative. Y'all know the call. Free them all. What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
Peace and love, family. Travel safe.